Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Access to Success podcast Project Shine series. I'm your host, Saeed Al-Basha, and with me is author, coach, and soon-to-be world record holder, Mike Diamond. This is episode 11 of season 2, and you may have noticed that we've been out for a couple weeks, but so much has been happening. First of all, my baby boy was born healthy and happy, so you know I had to take some time off to spend with that little guy and help my wife recover. And on that note, shout out to all the moms out there who sacrifice their bodies to have babies. I never knew how much a baby can take a toll on a woman's body. And man, it's really incredible. But thankfully, wife is healing nicely and she's in good spirits. Secondly, Mike Diamond has started his journey to break that Guinness World Record of running 30 half marathons in 30 days. You guys go check out his Instagram to follow along his journey, because by the time this episode airs, he's going to have completed 6 of the 30 days. And you guys are going to want to be a part of that historic accomplishment. So many people are already following along and posting about it. It's super exciting. And you guys are going to want to as well. So also, let's not forget why he's doing all of this. It's all for sweet little Layla, who is diagnosed with a rare and currently incurable autoimmune disease. He's looking for your support to help save her life. So if you can find it in your heart to donate $1, $100, $20, every little bit counts. Just go to runforlayla.com. That's run4layla.com. There's a place to donate on that website, and I've linked it up in the show notes. Now, today, we're jumping right back into our Project Shine topics, and we're debating authenticity. What is it? Why is it important? Why are so many people talking about being authentic? And just like we've explored other avenues of states of being, we're going to explore authenticity and how when you have it on your radar, you could use it to move forward in life. Now, the word authentic doesn't necessarily mean honest, but it does mean being true to your word. So we'll go into detail about why authenticity is important and why being authentic doesn't always align with other people's opinions. That's one of the biggest roadblocks for people, including myself, is the opinions of others. We got to shed that if we want to move forward in life. Also, we dig into how being authentic can help break barriers in our lives. You guys are really going to enjoy this one, and you're going to get a lot out of it. So after listening to this show, go show your support for Layla and Mike Diamond. But first, let's get authentic. All right, Project Shine, my man. How are you feeling today?
Average.
Well, let's change that. Well, you could be honest. You could be average. You could be below average, and you could be above average, right?
I can be honest. Yeah,
it's all
Just
okay.
fucking running myself and into hell, but but it's fine.
Yeah, but the all of that because you're being authentic.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
You know, being authentic. Authenticity is something that I think is being debated, and not in a bad way. But what is authenticity? You know, is it just being an open book and just sharing yourself with the world and everything that's good and bad about you? Or is it, you know, coming off in how you appear to the world or controlling that in any way? You know, what is authenticity?
It's a really good question. Well, let's have a look at it. I think being authentic means you're being congruent. So what I'm saying matches what I'm doing in any level. So let's say someone makes choices that I wouldn't agree with, me personally, but they're saying what they're doing, and that's authentic.
Yeah, do what you say.
That's authentic, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at a topic of, say, back in 1996, I think it was, or 93, they just started the UFC.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
93, 96.
Yeah.
So people didn't like it.
It's too violent.
Too violent.
Was quoted.
But you had these guys that got in a ring and beat the shit out of each other. And they were being authentic. Because they were like, I'm going to go and mess this guy up, and this guy's going to mess me up.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's popular. So culturally, we look at it differently. So, you know, someone could say, they're in a gang, and that's their street corner. And to them, being authentic is acting in a way which is congruent to what they say, which is, you come near me, I'm going to mess you up. That's authentic on a level, right?
Right. So it could be perceived as good or bad.
Well, I think people I think the biggest, and I can even say for myself, the biggest problems we have when we don't stay in our own lane.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's a few things that came up the other day that people, I don't get into. I stay away from politics. I stay far, far away from it. I don't want to go near it. And they say this person's not authentic and this person's this. Well, if they're not doing what they said they're going to do, yeah, they're not being authentic. But if they're doing what they say they're going to be doing, like they're really unauthentic, well, no, just you have a different value and your different, rules to what authentic is.
Right.
Because if they're doing what they say, that's authentic.
Yeah, I think politics is a bad example just because it's rare that somebody actually does what they say they're going to do.
Right, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, like, there's so many people that get upset in politics. I understand why, because they said this person's not authentic, they're not doing. But if their values and their principles are aligned in some way, they're being authentic to what they're saying.
Yeah.
They're being congruent.
Yeah.
Whether I agree with it or not.
That's true, because you're right. You don't necessarily have to agree with it for them to be authentic to themselves and what their message is or what their purpose is and all of these things. But there's a problem with, I can't call it a problem. There's a little bit of a movement that I've been hearing with certain social media influencers that say, be your authentic self, be authentic with yourself. And I think it's important to be authentic to yourself, because if you're not acting in the way that's congruent with your values, then you're effectively lying to yourself, and you're not gonna get your desired outcome. So when we say be authentic or be your authentic self, it does require a little bit of what we were talking about in the previous episode, or the values and if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to that episode because it's powerful. But creating the values and then acting in line with those values, and that's being authentic.
Yeah, well, if we set rules and we play by certain rules, everything is always perception. And you have two guys, they go in a tennis match. There's rules. Don't hit the ball out of the line. Don't do this. Don't do that. It's pretty simple, right? Yeah. That's a pretty simple. Now, basketball's different because one referee may see it as a foul, and one referee may see it another way, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're all in playing a game. They're being authentic. They're like, I'm a basketball player, and this is what the role I'm playing. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go out and play basketball. Or I'm gonna go out and play tennis. So we play all these roles, but what are we in these roles? What's authentic? What does that mean? So when people say the worst thing we can say, and I've fallen into this trap, is like, that person's not authentic. Well, they're not authentic if they're not congruent to what they're saying. The rubber's not hitting the road. They're just saying a bunch of shit and they're not doing it. But no one has the right, I don't have the right to judge someone of their journey and what they choose and what their rules are. I don't have to agree with them, but then again, I don't have to watch it. It's like when people get upset and they're like, this person's doing that. No one has a gun in your mouth saying you have to watch it. It's freedom. I don't have to turn on the TV. I don't have to watch, Look, at the end of the day, there's a bunch of like crazy housewives trying to kill each other on a show. Are they being authentic? Well, maybe they are. Is it what I want to watch? No. Whether I agree with it or not, it's not my business. Let them do whatever they want.
So you choose not to watch that because that's not what you value or what you where you like to spend your time.
How about this? I look at it like this. Pleasure and pain. If I'm going to eat junk food and get that little bit of pleasure from it, probably going to pay for it later and get in a bit of pain with my stomach, right?
Odds are that's true.
So if I'm going to watch junk, that's my junk food, I don't feel good watching people scream at each other personally. I just don't. It doesn't make me feel good. I'd rather watch a compelling, little story on E60 and be moved to tears when a little kid has no arms and no legs. And find that, to me, now that moves me to tears. Some people go, that's crazy. Why would you want to watch something and get me moved to tears? But that makes me feel good to be moved like that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Now, but there's a lot of people out there that like to watch people scream at each other all day and do certain things. That's where their pleasure centers are.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work for me.
Sure.
But that's their business.
Sure. Well,
You know?
if that's where they find their entertainment, if that's where they have their guilty pleasure, that's on them. It's a choice you have to make for yourself. But the backstory or the story that you're telling yourself when you're watching this is, are these people acting in accordance with your values? Do they become your role models? Is this how you start to act in the in real life? Are those things happening when you're watching this show, and are they influencing your mind in a negative way? And in that way, even if it is a guilty pleasure, if it's not serving your purpose or it's not in line or in congruence with your values, then it is junk. But that's for you, the individual, to decide, not for somebody outside of that.
Look, we put all this emphasis on status and having a big boat and having a big car and having loads of money and having all this stuff. At the end of the day, the famous saying, you never see a moving van or a U-Haul behind a hearse at a funeral because the person takes nothing with them.
Right.
What are people going to say about you when you're dead? So if you want to be really authentic, write down your bio, write a Wikipedia for yourself and say, this is what I want. This is the movie I'm going to create, right? And write that down and live by those principles and values and set those rules and be authentic to it. Whether anyone says anything or not, you know and I know what authentic is. So if I grow up in Perth and everyone around me is racist and everyone around me does certain things and I believe in myself, in me, that's not right, and I make different choices and they think it's authentic to do those things, that's not my business. I'm just going to leave. So I leave. I make different choices because I don't feel that's congruent. It doesn't feel. We all know intuitively what's right for ourselves.
Yeah.
But we lose touch with who we truly are because there's so much noise.
That's interesting because I can count a number of times where I thought that I had to act a certain way or I had to dress a certain way or I had to be a certain way in order for a certain person or a group of people to like me. This dates back to maybe even before high school.
Yeah.
We're talking as a kid, as a teenager, it's the most confusing time of your life. Your hormones are out of balance. You're growing. Your voice is changing. Your friends are weird. Everybody around you is just, it's really insanity if you think about it. But I thought dressing a certain way makes me accepted by a certain set of people that I wanted to impress, and I wasn't being authentic to myself because it was me trying to appease other people.
I mean, it's hard to be authentic. It's hard to be honest because you're now putting out stuff. And now here's the thing. So, I mean, when I grew up, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I had so much bad information around me, so many negative people, so many fixed mindsets. But I just knew deep down if I got out of this situation, I could create things. And, the longer I held on to disempowering beliefs, the more unauthentic I was to what I should be doing. Now, if we strip ourselves down and I know in my heart, intuitively, I should be doing certain things, and if those things don't produce, say, in a society, a certain like value or money, there's always value, but like a money value to what people think, well, you're not making this. But as long as I'm being authentic, I'm going to be happy. Because you can build a fucking castle of lies and you could have $1 and be really spiritually wealthy because you're being authentic. Do you know?
Yeah. I think the other difficulty with being authentic is that it requires a certain certain humble approach, and you become vulnerable, because sometimes being our authentic selves feels vulnerable because we think that we're going to be judged based upon our actions and values.
We may be.
Yeah.
Well, think about this, right? So if you look at America, and the one model that stands above anything in business is the franchise model. Okay?
Yeah.
That's why most small businesses go out of, it's very hard. So say I decide and I'm passionate to be a chef. I really find that's my calling, right? I'm being authentic. And then I get a job, and the only jobs I can get are, in these places that are chains, because I need to pay my bills, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a system that, to open a business, you have to borrow money, because no one's just you have to borrow money from somewhere, unless you're given it. So even then, unless a very small percentage of people are given money, I'm going to have to go to somewhere. So say that I go to a bank or I go to investors. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to borrow this money. And there's certain styles of food and there's certain things that people like to eat. Now, cooking that way may be really unauthentic to me, but I have to take a job. So I take a job because I want to pay my bills because I'm a chef. Okay? So I'm struggling along, and then I literally have to go from job to job to job to job to job to try to make my way. After time, I may start losing some of my authenticity because I've just got to hold down a job to pay my bills. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if we look at, that's why like a lot of entrepreneurs who aren't trying to, I'm cool, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, entrepreneurs think different. I don't know if we never talked about this, but we talked about it in private. My stepfather is an engineer that went to UCLA. And not my stepfather, my father-in-law. When I say stepfather, my father-in-law, sorry. And he had a really interesting story that his boss never actually went to school to become an engineer. I was like, what?
The owner of the agency.
His boss.
Yeah.
Who he worked for an engineering company. So I was like, well, how did that work? He's like, he went and worked for an engineer when he was younger and started drafting and just was so good, he realized he didn't need to go to school for it. And then my father-in-law said that most of the stuff he learned at UCLA, half of it was garbage anyway. And this guy ended up finding a niche, going, all right, a lot of these engineers are afraid to bid for jobs. I'll go get the jobs. And then he hired engineers that were licensed, but yet was as good as the other engineers. So that's being authentic. Because deep down in his soul, he knew he didn't need to go to school. That's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's really a brilliant dude.
That's such a great story.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a guy that says, I'm so authentic to my craft. I don't need to go to school. I can figure this. Now, you're talking about engineer. If someone would have said, no, you got to go to school to be an engineer. He's like, no, I don't. He's like, you'll never make it as an engineer. Okay. He ends up now running the company. How? Because, do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So being authentic is looking at what you want, intuitively knowing what you want, shutting down the noise, and tapping into that infinite intelligence, that source energy that Napoleon Hill talks about, The Secret talks about, Think and Grow Rich talks about. Like, and you go, okay, forget everyone. What's my calling? What am I passionate about? What is the universe telling me? What path do I need to take? And you get on that road, and you're so clear, and you're congruent about what you're studying and what you're thinking, and it's pretty hard to get rattled at that point. That's a person that's not getting distracted. That's an authentic person. And we're inspired by it because they do great shit.
Yeah. The interesting thing about being authentic and understanding the concept of authenticity is that we have to pay attention to how things make us feel.
Yes.
Because if it results in a negative emotion, it usually means that's not in line and we're not being authentic with ourselves. I could probably recall certain situations that I've been put in where I was, I went and followed the pack as opposed to saying, hey guys, that's probably not the right thing to do, but I went along with the pack anyway. And it felt wrong. I mean, it's, morally wrong. It felt inauthentic. It just felt all kinds of wrong. There was nothing in line with the purpose, but yet I went along with it because of the fact that there was a peer pressure, or there was, the mob mentality. And so we have to pay attention to those things and understand how these things make us feel so that we can understand our values and then be authentic with those values.
Well, look, to me, honestly, I'm Greek, Italian, some kind of Middle Eastern stuff in me. I never understood racism, personally. I don't understand it. I was picked on, bullied, being European, being like, Australia back when I was a kid, very right. Like, I just don't understand. It's just the color of your skin.
Right.
That's just me.
Yeah.
I do it in my brain. I just don't get it. How are you racist? I just don't. I'm just like.
It doesn't register.
It doesn't register to me because I just don't see there's a difference. If you're white, you're black, you're green, you're blue, you're Asian, I don't care. Like, who are you? Say whatever you want to say. That's why when some people, say, oh, a woman, she can't do this, or a woman can't do that. I remember watching this documentary of this great, for years, women weren't allowed to run marathons. And there was one woman that entered the Boston Marathon, and while she was running it, the organizer of the race jumped in. She had to register under another name and try to tackle her.
No way.
And her boyfriend at the time punched the guy off, and everyone surrounded her. It was pretty amazing shit. And they protected her, so no one could come near her in the run.
That's rad.
And she broke, like, all these barriers. And when you see people being authentic, and like a lot of the movements that we've seen, and unfortunately the racial movement, like, but when people have broken free, it's like, that's true. That's being authentic. That's like breaking through shit, because on a deeper level, we know that I'm going to die, you're going to die. Okay. And what happens after that is everyone's got their own opinion, but we don't have to destroy everything. That's all fear-based.
100%. I think part of that racism comes from fear.
It all comes from fear.
I mean, look at my name, Saeed Al-Basha. Like, I was born in Syria, immigrated here when I was 7 years old, not knowing the language, dressing funny, bringing funny food to school. You know what's funny is I used to bring hummus to school.
Oh my God.
And kids would make fun of me because they'd be like, "What is that?" And I'd be like, "It's hummus." I was eating hummus before hummus was cool. Like, it was weird, and I was the weird kid, and I didn't like that feeling. And I asked my mom, "Can you just make me peanut butter and jelly like the other kids, just so I could fit in?" And it's a sad thing to say, to even reflect upon, because I felt hurt by the fact that I didn't fit in and kids were making fun of me. And it caused me to be inauthentic, to change what I brought to school as food, because this was what the other kids were doing, as opposed to saying, "No, I'm going to bring my food," and being authentic to
but
myself.
It's hard as a kid, but check this out.
Oh, it's 7 years old. Impossible.
Flip this over. So I look different to everyone. There's no Europeans in this, but my parents were second generation Greek, and they never really got into the Greek culture because they wanted to be like more Australian. But I'm not Australian in that sense. The kids looked at me like, this kid doesn't look Australian. And because they didn't embrace that culture, it was more confusing to me. I would have rather them embrace our culture, which was the Greek culture, and just that kind of stuff, and go, okay, because it was so split, because sometimes we'd do Greek traditional stuff, and then sometimes we wouldn't. And I'm like, well, what are we? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded going that one way, because you know what? I was already put in that one way. Because no one wanted to accept me on the other side. I would have rather been like, here, this guy. Fine, I need to know what I am. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, it was more damaging. Then I find out, like, going through 23andMe, there's Italian, there's all these other. And the funniest thing is, I've been to Italy, and I love Italy. Like, I fucking love that place. Like, I'm obsessed with Italy. And when we went to Italy, I just didn't want to leave. And then I did this 23andMe, and I've got like 30% Italian in me.
Wow.
And I'm in love Italy. Like, I'm obsessed with ancient Rome, Stoic philosophy, you know what I mean? But I'm, just as obsessed with the early Greek philosophy. But it was weird. I was so drawn. I was like, why am I so drawn to this place? I mean, when we got there, I felt so at home.
Interesting.
And we walked the street, and I was just like, oh my God, I could just stay here. And my wife's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I just really am. It's so authentic to me. This place is just makes me feel good. And then I find out I'm like 30% Italian in me. And I'm like, holy shit.
That's fascinating, man.
Yeah. Like it pulled me in. Do you know what I mean? So I guess it's all, for you, it was really hard to be authentic. For me, it was hard to be authentic. Do you know what I mean?
It's something that had to be developed over time. I had to have the confidence to be myself.
It's so hard to be honest. It's so hard to be authentic. Now I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's like...
Right. The older you get, the less you give a shit. But it's when you're young, when you're trying to fit in, when you're trying to, be a part of a group.
I mean, I was being unauthentic for years. I got so much gratification for being an unauthentic person when it was drinking, doing coke and owning bars. It was like, it was just easy. It's an easy thing to do. I was good at it, but it wasn't authentic. I mean, for me to, spend 6 hours on a phone call with someone and help them, or, travel, transporting someone if they need to get to a safe place, that's way more rewarding to me and more authentic with me, who I am, than standing in a bar, and snorting cocaine with a bunch of rock star friends and thinking I'm cool.
Yeah.
But that's where I was at.
Right.
I was taking quick pleasure, and it was damaging because it was so fucking authentic. But, once I got sober 13 years ago, everything shifted. I was just like, oh my God, I got to change some shit.
It took that, but it set you in that right direction.
I had no choice. I was going to just fucking...
I wonder if you would have this kind of mentality if you didn't go through what you went through.
No, I always knew what authentic was from
Yeah?
a little kid. Oh yeah, I was just fucking lazy.
You just lie to yourself.
I was lazy. I can admit it.
Yeah.
I'm the first one to admit that I cheated. In the sense of that, I knew the right. I've always known the right. I've always from a young kid had great intuition. I've always known the right thing to do. Whether I've done it or not is always questioned. But I've always known. But I just took, as I said, quick pleasure. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to avoid doing work. We all do it. I admitted it. I was lazy.
Yeah.
I got away on charm and just being. Look, we all have different. I'm good. I'm an extrovert. I have some certain qualities and assets that have worked in my favor. I've always been an outgoing person, but that was my downfall. When you add cocaine and alcohol in it, ripped a hole through me because I just was not a good person. I was doing dumb shit, and I was doing it a lot. That's why if someone comes up to me now and says, you know what you were like when you were doing that, I'm like, I don't know. If I was, I apologize. I'll make an amends. There's some shit I don't remember. I can't remember. It's 13 years ago.
That's insane. I mean, under influences of alcohol and drugs and, this lack of sleep. And how do you even...
Rolling with a pretty heavy crew as well. We were like... We were doing things that like dark and weird and very unauthentic. Like not things I would say, oh yeah, it was fucking... I was just like, I don't regret it. I just want to... I don't live in regret.
Right.
I associate that with pain now, so I never go back.
So you don't go back, yeah. That's a great mindset. It really is, because if you live in the past, you won't be able to achieve progress. It's not something. It's impossible. You can't. You just keep looking back at the mistakes as opposed to and reliving them, as opposed to changing your behavior so that you can move forward.
I'm more interested at looking at what was motivating those choices. And looking at the core of it and going, all right, I want a completely different result. So I'm definitely not going to use that approach.
Yeah.
And if I stay consistent with those values and what I choose to be authentic, I mean, if you're not happy and you're blaming the world and you're blaming everything and you're not looking at yourself and taking responsibility, if you can stop and just look at yourself and say, okay, say, cancel out anyone else. What do I need to change in myself? What am I not doing? Where am I not authentic? Where is it not congruent? Where aren't things lining up? And if I can come back to me and do that, I can get on track. You know?
That's some firepower right there.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Well, I know one person will hear it and go, this is amazing. And one person will hear it and go, he's a fucking idiot. But either way, it's two people listening.
I love it, man. All right, my man. That's another one in the books.
Authentic. Be authentic.
Okay, thank you for listening. We really, really appreciate hearing your feedback and seeing you guys sharing the episode. I know you guys are enjoying it. Let us know about it. Love to hear from you. And make sure you donate at that runforlayla.com website and follow Mike Diamond on his journey. Super exciting stuff going on, guys. Also, we're building and growing some more ways to enjoy the show, so stay tuned for that. We're going to make some announcements here in the next few weeks. So I'll see you next week on the Access to Success podcast, Project Shine.